All right, so welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. And today we're going to be talking about Elon Musk, but not just like his normal, crazy antics. But we're going a little bit deeper than that, especially with some of the recent developments that have happened that are kind of interesting.
It is fascinating, isn't it? I mean, we have articles here talking about everything from Tesla and SpaceX to X, his social media platform, and even, forays into AI with Neuralink and XAI.
Hmm.
But what's really got our attention is this sort of new role he's carved out in the new presidential administration.
It's like he's collecting job titles.
Right.
Like they're going out of style. CEO, innovator, meme lord, and now maybe power player in Washington. It's like he's almost trying to single-handedly build the future, and now he's got a direct line to the people who are kind of making the rules.
Well, and that's what's so fascinating. Because, a lot of CEOs specialize. But Musk's empire spans, industries that you wouldn't think would be related at all. Is this just boundless ambition? Is this a strategic play to control different pieces of the technological puzzle? Or is it something else entirely?
I mean, you've got electric vehicles revolutionizing transportation, space travel becoming more accessible, AI potentially changing everything we know about work and intelligence, and then you throw in social media and government influence. It's almost too much to wrap your head around.
One thing that I thought was really interesting that we saw in some of the financial analysis was that Musk's wealth has absolutely skyrocketed since the election. Now, correlation doesn't equal causation,
Yeah.
but it does make you wonder, if there's a strategic link between his business ventures and this kind of political maneuvering that he seems to be engaging in.
So let's talk about this whole Department of Government Efficiency thing, or
Right.
DOGE for short. I'll admit, when I first saw that acronym, I thought it had to be a joke. Is this like some kind of meme-based power move?
Well, I mean, DOGE does refer to a cryptocurrency that Musk has heavily promoted in the past.
Hmm?
Whether that's intentional or coincidental, I'm not really sure. But it definitely adds another layer of intrigue to it. But the department itself, it's supposed to be all about streamlining government processes, cutting red tape, promoting efficiency. But the details are incredibly vague.
It's like they announce the name and the general idea, and then everyone's kind of left wondering, what does it actually do?
Right, and that lack of clarity raises some serious questions. What kind of power will Musk have within this department? What are its specific goals? How much oversight will there be?
It's a little unnerving to think about, honestly. But speaking of access and influence, the articles paint a pretty vivid picture of Musk's presence at Mar-a-Lago. Apparently, he's a regular fixture there, sitting in on meetings, even calls with foreign leaders.
It's an interesting contrast, isn't it? Because on the one hand, you have reports of Trump's team praising Musk, calling him a visionary leader, someone whose insights are invaluable. But then on the other hand, there are whispers of him potentially overstepping boundaries and, ruffling feathers within the inner circle.
You have to wonder what the dynamic is like in those rooms. Is he there as an advisor, a friend, or something else entirely? And then there's that X post where he talks about a very productive day of work by the transition team as if he's part of that team. Is he intentionally blurring the lines between his business role and his political access?
Well, it's a brilliant move regardless of his intent.
Yeah.
Because by publicly aligning himself with the administration, he projects this image of being on the inside, which furthers his influence and reach.
It's like he's playing 4D chess while everyone else is struggling with checkers. But here's the thing. These two personalities, Musk and the new administration, they haven't always seen eye to eye.
Right? There's that infamous moment where the previous administration called Musk's companies worthless without subsidies. These are two very powerful entities with very different approaches to business, to technology, even to the role of government. So the question becomes, can this alliance last?
It's a bit like watching a high-stakes poker game unfold. You know there are going to be big wins and big losses, but you're not sure who's going to come out on top.
And the stakes are incredibly high because Musk's influence extends far beyond his individual companies. We're talking about the potential impacts on everything from space policy and AI development to the future of social media and even how the government itself functions.
It's almost dizzying to think about one person with the potential to shape so many different aspects of our lives, but this is just the tip of the iceberg, right?
Oh yeah, we've laid the groundwork. But now it's time to dig into the specifics. What are the key areas where Musk's influence could be most strongly felt? And what are the potential consequences, both intended and unintended? So let's start with SpaceX and space policy. What we're seeing here is a fundamental shift in how we even approach space exploration. It's not just about government agencies like NASA anymore. Private companies are playing a major role, and SpaceX is kind of leading that charge.
And it's not just about launching satellites or
Yeah.
sending astronauts to the International Space Station. I mean, Musk is talking about colonizing Mars,
Mhm.
making space travel commercially viable, even using Starship, their massive reusable spacecraft for point-to-point travel on Earth.
Yeah, like imagine hopping on a rocket
Yeah.
and flying from New York to Tokyo in under an hour. That's the kind of future he envisions. And his close ties to the administration could give him the leverage to really make that happen.
It's a little wild to think about, though. I mean, who regulates space travel when private companies are involved? What happens if there's an accident or a conflict in space? These are all questions that we don't have answers to yet.
It's like the Wild West of the 21st century. We're entering uncharted territory here, and the rules haven't been written yet.
Hmm.
And it's not just about space travel, it's about, the resources that might be found, the potential for new industries, even the possibility of encountering, other forms of life.
Okay, now my head is officially spinning. Let's shift gears for a second and talk about AI, because that's another area where Musk is making some pretty big moves with Neuralink and XAI.
Yeah, Neuralink is focused on developing brain-computer interfaces, essentially allowing humans to interact with computers and devices using just their thoughts. They're talking about treating neurological conditions, enhancing cognitive abilities, even merging human consciousness with AI.
Hold on, merging consciousness with AI, that sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. Is that even possible?
It's definitely more on the speculative end, but they are making progress in areas like, neural implants, brain-machine communication. And then with XAI, Musk is aiming to develop what he calls safe and beneficial artificial general intelligence,
Mm.
essentially an AI that could perform any intellectual task that a human can.
But the potential downsides of AI are pretty terrifying too, right? I mean, we've all seen enough dystopian movies about robots taking over the world.
Yeah, it's a legitimate concern. And Musk himself has been vocal about the risks of unchecked AI development. But he believes that by developing it responsibly, we can harness its power for good and avoid those worst-case scenarios.
So it all comes down to how this technology is used. In the right hands, it could revolutionize healthcare, solve complex problems, even push the boundaries of human creativity. But in the wrong hands, it could be incredibly dangerous.
And that brings us back to the question of Musk's influence. Because he's not just developing these technologies, he's actively shaping the conversation around them, pushing for policies that favor his vision, and potentially influencing how AI is regulated and controlled.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's about the values and goals of the people who control it. And with Musk's growing political connections, his influence in this area is only likely to increase.
And we have to think about, the potential implications for privacy. If Neuralink's brain-computer interfaces become widespread, who has access to that data? How is it protected? And what happens if that technology falls into the wrong hands?
It's a lot to think about. And then you have X, his social media platform, which he's already using to amplify his views and shape public opinion. Imagine if he starts integrating AI into X, using algorithms to control what people see and how they interact. That could be a really powerful tool for shaping narratives and influencing political discourse.
And we're already seeing concerns about, social media's impact on elections, misinformation, polarization. Adding AI into that mix could take those concerns to a whole new level.
Okay, so we've got space travel, AI, social media, government influence, all swirling around in this Elon Musk vortex. I feel like we need a flowchart to keep track of it all.
And we haven't even touched on the financial piece of the puzzle, the complex web of investments, cryptocurrency plays, potential conflicts of interest that might be at play here. We have reports that suggest Musk has made some very strategic investments in companies that are directly related to policies he's advocating for.
So it's not just about building companies and shaping technology. It's about leveraging financial power to influence policy decisions and potentially benefit his own ventures.
Exactly. And that raises questions about transparency, accountability, and whether Musk's actions are ultimately serving the public interest or his own personal agenda.
It's like this weird tightrope walk. On the one hand, you have this brilliant innovator pushing the boundaries of technology and potentially creating, a more exciting and prosperous future. But on the other hand, you have this concentration of power, this lack of transparency, and this potential for things to go very wrong.
Yeah. And that's the challenge as a society. How do we encourage innovation and progress while also safeguarding against the potential risks and the abuses of power?
It's a question that doesn't have an easy answer, but it's one that we need to keep asking as we navigate this rapidly changing landscape.
We're entering an era where technology is blurring the lines between what's possible and what's ethical, between what's beneficial and what's dangerous. And it's more important than ever to have these conversations, to critically examine the motives and actions of those who hold so much power, and to demand a future that benefits all of humanity, not just a select few.
I mean, it's like we're living in a science fiction novel, right? Billionaires launching rockets, AI on the verge of sentience, social media platforms that can sway elections, and all of these threads seem to converge around Elon Musk.
And it's interesting how he's able to blend these worlds that seem so different, right? He's using his wealth and his influence to create this interconnected ecosystem where his companies, his political connections, even his online persona, it all works together.
So it's not just about, the individual companies or the technologies. It's about this bigger picture, like this grand experiment in shaping the future. But the question is this experiment going to benefit humanity? Or is it just another power grab?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And it's one that we're all struggling with, right, as we're trying to make sense of this crazy world. It's tempting to want to put Musk into a box like, is he a hero or a villain? But the reality is much more complicated than that.
He's not just a tech CEO. He's not just a government advisor. He's this larger-than-life figure who represents both our aspirations and our anxieties about the future. People love him, they hate him, but they definitely can't ignore him.
That's part of his power, though, right? I mean, he's mastered the art of capturing attention, whether it's through these audacious pronouncements or his Twitter feuds, or these ideas that just seem outlandish and then somehow they become reality.
Remember when he launched that Tesla Roadster into space? I mean, it was a publicity stunt for sure, but it also captured the imagination of so many people.
It did. And it kind of solidified that image of him as this bold innovator.
Someone who's not afraid to break the rules.
Exactly.
But that also means that the stakes are pretty high. If his bets pay off, we could be looking at a future with clean energy, space travel, maybe even enhanced human capabilities. But if they fail, the consequences could be just as dramatic.
Yeah, and that's why these conversations are so important. We need to examine the potential benefits and the risks of what he's doing, and think critically about the kind of future that we want.
We can't just sit back and be passive observers. We have to be informed, engaged, and challenge the people who hold power.
Even when they seem larger than life.
Especially when they seem larger than life.
Exactly. At the end of the day, the future isn't predetermined. It's shaped by the choices we make, the actions that we take, the conversations we have. And it's up to all of us to make sure that those choices are leading to a future that's technologically advanced, but also ethically responsible.
I think that's a great point to end on. So we're going to leave you with this. What role do you want to play in shaping the future? Will you be a passive observer, or will you actively engage in the conversations and decisions that are going to shape our collective destiny? The choice is yours. Until next time, keep diving a